and welcome to the Krystal Archive podcast, episode number 38. This is being recorded live at 10:30 a.m. Central Time in the United States on December 14th, 2016. I'm your host, Mr. Krystal, and we have a very special guest star today, Lylat-Mobius Adventurer. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Krystal. I'm Lylat-Mobius Adventurer, also known as Brian, to the Krystal Archive, and I'm happy to be back for another podcast.
It's great to have you back. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Brian has been a key player in the form of helping us get some footage of Ayano and also helping me personally with some posts on the site in the past. And he'll be helping me today with podcasts. He's got several things he wants to talk about. Since he experienced them firsthand, and I was not there, he'll get to tell you about them. And then he'll be helping me with just the regular news as well. So let's get started, shall we?
Yep.
Okay. So for those of you who have been following the site, you know that the reason why I'm doing this podcast is because today, of all times, is because I had surgery on Monday morning that needed to be done on my left elbow. So I'm not really able to use my left arm all that much. In fact, if you want to, I can actually show you the arm, show you what happened. And for those of you who are squeamish, you can look away for the next 2 or 3 minutes. Does that sound good to you? It's not terrible, just some stitches. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So let me aim up here. So this is the site right here.
Oh.
It's not too bad actually. It's pretty tender and it's kind of bruised, but they made a little cut in here, and they ran some stuff up and down my arms to help my nerve. The nerve that goes down between those two bones, otherwise known as the funny bone. That was what was affected. So they came in and fixed that, and it's going to be recovering for the next week or two. It's going to be a little sore, but the worst of it's over. I'm not in a cast anymore, thank goodness. And I wanted to talk about, for those of you who looked away, you can look back now. I'm not going to show it again. So I wanted to explain the reason why we haven't had a podcast in about a year. And the answer is roommates. I'm currently living in a house with roommates, and they are not aware of the Krystal Archive or my alternate identity. And they're usually here on Saturdays, which is when I would normally do a podcast. So I haven't really had the opportunity to do it. But now I'm doing it in the middle of the day on a work day, so they're not here. Plenty of time to do it. So that's why it's been so long. The last time we did a podcast, which was back in January, either late December or early January of 2016, we had just celebrated the 10th anniversary of the Krystal Archive on being online, and the 11th anniversary is coming up in just a few days on January 10th, 2017. We'll have been online for 11 years, the longest running project I've ever done in my life. So that was exciting. It's going to be exciting. I'll of course post about that when we do it. And since this is being recorded in December, the end of the year, I want to go through the entire year, do a year in review, and we'll talk about the major news stories that happened throughout 2016. Sound good?
Yep.
All right, now, Brian, you've got the same list I have. I think I'm going to read about 5 of these, and then you can, if you want to jump into any of these or talk about any of these in more detail. Okay, so I'm going to just mention a few of these briefly. I'm going to mention these things pretty briefly and not really talk about them in detail, because some of the things are going to have more detail, and Brian's going to be talking about them at length in a later section. So, beginning right after the last podcast, we had Ayano, the Krystal cosplayer, wish the Krystal Archive a happy 10th birthday. Then shortly after that, Ayano visited Further Confusion in San Jose, California, where our friend Brian and also FJ McCloud, the Fox McCloud cosplayer, and also a newer friend of mine, Data Hog, who's based here in Austin, Texas, were all in attendance with her. They took tons of photos and videos, and most of which were submitted to the site, showing off Ayano's Krystal cosplay and FJ McCloud's Fox McCloud cosplay. And Brian's going to be talking about his adventure there in detail shortly. Then we had the Smashified team, which likes to go out and draw pictures of characters they want to see in Super Smash Brothers. They'll draw a piece of artwork for that character, and for this month, that back in January, they chose Krystal, and they showed her in some kind of combination Star Fox Command, Star Fox Assault suit, and made it look like she was one of the real characters in the game, using the exact same art style that they use when promoting the real characters. Did you get to? And they also did as a speed paint, and they had commentary about it and about the character Krystal, which was great to see that kind of recognition for Krystal. Did you get to see that video, Brian?
No, not yet. So that's what I've been meaning to look for.
Okay, well, I highly encourage it. They have a guy who goes by Mr. I can't remember his first name, but his last name is Sweeto, and he talked at length about how great Krystal was, and he was one of the leading people trying to get Krystal in Smash Brothers last time around, which we'll have some more news about that later on today. Then we had a little bit of sad news. Our friend FoxType1973, who is also a site reader and site contributor, was going through some health issues, and he's in the hospital a lot for various problems with his stomach and other organs, and he had to have a lot of treatments, and he was really kind of feeling down, and he asked for us to follow him on Twitter and talk to him and just kind of give him some encouragement to keep him from being lonely. And you can do that too. If you can follow him on Twitter. He just posted a couple days ago. His Twitter is VoltFoxTune. That's VOLP FoxTune. And that article is also on the website. You just search back in January or look for FoxType1973. And then we found out that First Four Figures, one of the big video game figurine makers in America, decided to do a replica of the Star Fox R-Wing, complete with LED lights for the thrusters. Looks really great. I think it's like $200 though, so I don't actually have one of those, unfortunately. Looks good. Speaking of figurines, they're also shortly afterwards, GameStop announced that they were going to be releasing a Fox McCloud statue. It's about 6 to 8 inches tall. Can't see my hand. About that tall. I actually bought 2 of them, and I should have brought it out for the podcast, but I forgot. So it's over in the other room. But yeah, it's a really high quality sculpted Fox McCloud sculpture. Brian, do you have any comments on any of these stories so far, or we should just continue on?
I have been meaning to look at the First Four Figures models. However, I've been busy with other things recently. That's on my to-do list, though.
If I remember correctly, I saw a post a couple of days ago that said that the First Four Figure R-Wing in Europe, where they sell it in Europe, is actually on sale right now. It's still pretty expensive, but maybe it'll be within your price range now. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it's worth a look.
Now, keep in mind, there's two versions of that. One of them is like the Founders Edition. It's like the first run, and it's got a slightly different coloration or something. And the rest,
right.
and then there's just the regular ones after that. I'm not really sure the details. But all these details can be found on the Krystal Archive. You just go back a few pages, and you'll find all these stories we're talking about.
Okay.
All right, so let's continue on. So in March, we got a massive Nintendo Direct focusing a lot on Star Fox Zero and Star Fox Guard, the big Star Fox game released this year. The first game in a long time since Star Fox Command, unless you count re-releases of Star Fox 64 on the 3DS. And we're going to talk about Star Fox Zero in detail later. We got a lot to talk about on that subject. You know, the first big Star Fox game in years. There's a lot to go through. After the Nintendo Direct, Nintendo apparently got rid of all of their press embargoes and showed off just a ton of news and interviews, and we got to find out all this stuff about what people were getting and when. So, for example, just this as a subset of things, Europe got a special edition metal case for Star Fox Zero. They talked about how they had attempted to make a transforming R-Wing amiibo, an amiibo that was an R-Wing that could transform into the Walker form from the game. Although they ultimately canceled it because it had too many small parts and they were afraid it would break or lose pieces and people would choke on them or something. So they unfortunately didn't do that. But apparently it was working and possible to do. So that was exciting. We had lots of people personally interviewing Mr. Miyamoto for the first time that I've seen, where actual not interviews, YouTube stars, people from YouTube who were famous because of YouTube, were able to interview Mr. Miyamoto, as opposed to the more traditional, in addition to the more traditional media outlets like IGN and Polygon and the major news outlets for video games. We also had individual YouTubers getting to interview Miyamoto, which that's exciting. They get to ask all the fan questions. And of course, we got lots of trailers, lots of spoilers, and a lot of Star Fox retrospectives. So people coming in and talking about the history of Star Fox and the different previous games, including our favorites, Adventures and Assault. Next, we had my annual tradition, April Fools. April Fool's Day is my favorite day on the entire internet. I love reading the news, the fake news on April Fool's Day. It's so much fun. And this year, I decided to do a favorites mode rumor, which was to say that Star Fox Zero was apparently going to receive a mode in which you could replace the visual characters, the 3D models of every character in the game. So you could have, say, Falco being the main character and Slippy being the wingman and Peppy being on the ship and Rob being in an R-Wing, something like that. Giving complete control over which character appeared where, and then also allowing people to put just duplicates. And so it's like, and one of the things is you'll be able to use Krystal and put Krystal for every single character in the game. And that was kind of my meta critique of how I was kind of making fun of some Krystal fans. Don't hate me, but some Krystal fans were getting really upset about this game not having Krystal in it, even though it doesn't really make sense for Krystal to be in it given the time frame. So I was like, yep, I'm just going to give you exactly what you wanted. And people on the site fell for it, I think because it was what they wanted to see. Were you fooled?
No.
Not even a little bit?
That I could tell.
So yeah, I figured that I put this really stupid image where I took a picture of the Star Fox team, like Peppy, Falco, Fox, and Slippy, and I physically in Photoshop just replaced all the characters with Krystal's head. And I mean, and you would know it's fake, right? They know it's obvious just from looking at it that it's Photoshopped. But like I would figure that something that by me making such a silly image would give away that this was the April Fool's joke, and apparently not. So I'm gonna have to do even better for this coming year, 2017. I haven't decided what I'm gonna do yet, but it's gonna have to be good.
Mm.
All right, next we got Ayano had her second event of the year where she visited the Tokyo Game Show, which is a huge mecca for cosplayers. If I remember correctly, she was actually trying to meet up with Nintendo representatives and say, "Hey, you know, I'm Krystal, and you should have me in more games." Unfortunately, it turns out that Nintendo does not and apparently never has attended the Tokyo Game Show. So that was a bit of a bummer, but she did get to hang out and have fun. And then we had a collaboration with Abdallah, who is a Nintendo representative. He gets the games early and gets to play through them, and all he is required to do is post videos about it. And he decided to do a complete walkthrough where he showed how to beat every level in Star Fox Zero, and do it in the order, or you can switch between taking this route or this route depending on how you click at the end of the video, and he would show alternate routes and alternate forms and all these different Easter eggs. He would show all that, and he partnered with us, with the Krystal Archive and a few other sites to have that all of his videos show up on these sites at midnight, the night that Star Fox Zero was released. And so we did that. Now I haven't actually watched them because I don't want to do the spoilers, but if you're trying to figure out how to beat the game, it's a good resource. Believe it or not, fun.com contacted me directly, although I had already heard about it at the time, to tell me about their amazingly huge infographic of Star Fox. They made one giant image that has the entire history of Star Fox, not just the games, but some of the development, some of the unreleased games, and all of the cameo appearances of Star Fox and Star Fox characters in every game ever known. And there's quite a lot of them. They did a really, really good job. I don't think I found really any errors on that image. So if you want to get a top-down, complete perspective of the Star Fox history, that infographic is a great start. Have you seen that image?
I'm just trying to remember.
It's got the lines like here's Star Fox, and then line 2, and then line 2, depending on like this game was canceled. They talked about the there was a demo for the Virtual Boy, a Star Fox demo that was never released and never officially revealed to the public, but somebody snuck a camera in, and there's a few frames of video of this Star Fox video, Star Fox for virtual reality in the Virtual Boy. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
So in addition to Ayano cosplays, we have other cosplayers. We posted about cosplays by Gatry Project and La Mascata's Fursuits. We've talked about both those. Then right before Star Fox Zero was released, we got to see the amazing animated short Star Fox Zero: The Battle Begins, which acted as sort of a prequel to the game. And it was really like, this is what an anime of Star Fox would be like, and it was surprisingly good. Like, it was corny. It was really campy, but boy was it good. It was good in all the right ways. How did you like it? I'm sure you saw that.
I think I did, but my memory is still not that good.
They used Peppy had a tuft of General Pepper's fur, like on his key ring for some reason, and they're like, "That's not weird at all." He's like, "Shut up."
So I watched that to remind myself.
It was so good,
Yeah.
and it was like a lot of action for just a very short 15 minutes, and frankly, I could see them doing that for a real show, like a TV show or a cartoon. It would be really, really good if they did that. It doesn't look like it at this time, but you could see where they would go if they were going to do it. So right after they did that animated short, they did a live stream from the Nintendo Treehouse, where they were playing the game and talking about it, just like they were doing with the Nintendo Direct. But there was a nice little gesture to the Krystal fans. Somebody had drawn a bunch of pictures on the whiteboard in the room, and there was things from Star Fox Guard and Star Fox characters. But somebody had actually drawn a picture of Krystal. So you're like, yep, Nintendo hasn't forgotten about her. So that's always good.
It is.
Then we found out that Nintendo's New York store, formerly the Pokemon Center USA, I believe, had several exclusive Star Fox things like T-shirts, ways to purchase the game, and they also had some of their E3 booths set up, so you could actually play the game as if you were in a cockpit of an R-Wing, which, as I understand, was a really great way to play the game. So while we were talking about all this stuff, all this huge amount of Star Fox Zero related information that was coming out every hour, all day, all night for several days, I kept up with it and I posted on the site, and doing so, I actually hurt my hands a little bit, and I'm still recovering from that. This surgery is kind of partly that, although I had these symptoms before that. So it forced me to take a break from the site for a while. And then right after that, I had quite a few family and real life issues that I had to take care of. So there was kind of a lull. Right after Star Fox Zero came out, there was really not much posted on the site. And I'm sorry for that. There wasn't much I could do. I was just kind of stuck having worked so hard and then not being able to work anymore. Kind of like while I'm doing this, I should have done a podcast at the time, because then I could have saved my hands, but I didn't think of it at the time. I was just kind of trying to deal with the situations as they came. I think, if I remember correctly, Brian, you helped out a little bit during that time, or sometime around there, where you helped me post some things.
Yeah.
So we had some guest posts from Brian. As I mentioned, he often helps with the posting, in addition to being our agent in the field out to California on occasion. Okay, so one of the things I got to do now the year before last, in 2014, I believe, I did my first presentation, the live podcast done with a live studio audience at Furry Fiesta. And that was a real great experience. I got to hang out with Ayano, and that was my first time to meet you, Brian.
It was.
And we had a great time, and boy, it took us months to edit those videos. But I decided to go to Furry Fiesta again this year, but only for like just one day, because I knew Ayano wouldn't be there and I wasn't doing the presentation. So I just went there for Saturday. Well, I happened to walk by somebody's booth who goes by Oxygen Impulse. And Oxygen Impulse makes a bunch of fan stuff. And one of the things she makes is these little charms, these little handcrafted clay-based painted charms of various characters, usually Pokemon or Digimon or characters from popular video games and TV shows. And I noticed that she had a Renamon charm, and I said, "You have a Renamon charm. Why don't you have a Krystal charm?" And she said, "You're like the fourth person to say that today." And I said, "Well, you know what? I'm going to commission it." So I commissioned her to make a charm, and I told her about the site and how we may have some more people, some other Krystal fans who'd be interested in purchasing it too. And she said, "That's great. We can make as many as you want." So we got that started, and I posted about it on the site, and many people on the site expressed interest in buying one, including Ayano. Believe it or not, Ayano wanted to buy one. So so I posted about that. I also had recently gone to Everfree Northwest, the Seattle BronyCon, where I also decided on a whim commission one of the artists there to not do a pony commission, but do a crystal commission. And that artist was Lylat-Mobius. I'm going to pronounce it that way. It's kind of a weird name to pronounce, but he does really good art, and he did a picture of Krystal sitting out next to a canyon, looking kind of at peace, while a futuristic city rises in the background, and people really like that as well. I think it's going to be my tradition now. Every time I go to a convention, I'm going to commission a single artist to do one Krystal picture. I've done that one. I've done the Oxygen Impulse thing. I've got some more to talk about in the future. So that's going to be an ongoing thing, I think, just for fun, just something else to do at conventions when I'm there. Brian, you have any comments? I've been talking the whole time.
That's okay. But I've actually been meaning to have a look in buying a Krystal charm. Believe it or not, I've forgotten about it until a couple of days ago. But yeah, since a couple of days ago, I've been preparing for this podcast, so I've not had that much time to look into it. But that's one of the things that's definitely going to come next.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
I was just checking our chat, and someone reminded me that the guy's name was Jordan Sweeto. Thank you.
Yeah.
And yes, there was a history trailer for Star Fox on Nintendo UK's channel. I did post about that. All right, to continue, we had E3 week came and went, and Nintendo told us that they were only going to show off one game, and they were true to their word. They only really showed off one game, at least playable. They only let Zelda be playable. They showed a few other games, with the most interesting one probably being that new RPG game called Endless Oasis, I think. It's kind of like a 3-player RPG or something like that. But anyway, almost all of their coverage was The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. And, excuse me, what a fantastic looking game. It is. I'm just really excited about that game. I can't wait to play it. I can't wait to get into the Switch to play it. And it's kind of a game that everybody really wanted to play. It's like Skyrim, but with Zelda. And it seems like there's things to do all the time. No matter where you go or what you're doing, there's always something to do. And it's a very non-linear story. You can go straight to the final boss if you're feeling crazy, or you can just play through it as slow as you want and do all the little side quests. And it's just really a remarkable looking game. And even though Nintendo really kind of showed only one game, which people really criticized before the show, after the show, they're like, you know what? That Zelda game, man, that really won E3, as far as we can tell, like, is just so good that it got the best in the show. And also, Nintendo was live streaming for like 8 hours a day, during which time we were doing live. I had a live chat all week, and I was in the chat room watching this stuff with people because I'm able to work from home, so I had the stream up while I was working on my my actual day job, and I would jump in and chat with you guys as things happened. And one of my favorite parts was there's this one lady who works at Nintendo. She was frequently on the live stream, and I've lost her name. I can't remember her name, but she's an older Asian lady, very sweet, but she's got kind of that thing where she knows English, but she doesn't know some of the expressions quite right. So she'll be talking about how she plays Zelda, and she'll use this expression, and it just sounds so weird. And she says, "Oh wait, no, I meant this other thing," and it was just like Freudian slips, you know. And she's my favorite. She was so funny, and I need to go back and make a compilation of just her commentary on the Zelda game. What did you think about E3? Did you watch any of that coverage?
Just the coverage that they showed of Star Fox Zero and some people playing it.
At this year's E3?
Oh, that was last year. No,
Yeah, that's right. Did
no,
you follow any of the Zelda stuff at all?
not this year. I've completely forgot about that.
Wow, you are missing out.
No. But yeah, next year I plan to follow as much as I can.
Okay. Well, we don't know we have no clue what next year's E3 is going to have because, as I'll get to in a bit, we're going to find out most of the next year's stuff in January rather than at E3. So who knows what they're going to show at E3. Now, by the time E3 happened this year in 2016, it was pretty clear that Star Fox Zero was not quite the hit that they had hoped it would be. And that's really kind of a shame. So Nintendo kind of went into this E3 with a down market, and then they only got to show one game. So people were kind of concerned, but now things seem to have turned completely around. Even though Nintendo doesn't really have a major holiday to speak of here, you know, they don't have much they're releasing here in the holidays. They may actually have been doing the best of all the systems because they released the Nintendo Classic, the NES Classic, which was a runaway success. No one expected it to be that popular. They released Pokemon Sun and Moon, which are the best-selling Pokemon games so far, it seems. They're just flying off the shelves. They're releasing Super Mario Run in just a couple of days, and that's huge news. And then, of course, they've revealed some stuff about the Nintendo Switch, which has gotten people continuously talking about what that'll be about in the Zelda game coming out. So even without that much in terms of product, Nintendo is really making major headway this holiday season, to everyone's surprise, even mine. I thought that they were going to just kind of buckle down and just try and get the holiday over as early as they can and focus on next year, but they seem to be doing okay. Plus, Pokemon Go continues to be a massive success, and they just announced some new releases where you can get a holiday Pikachu. It's a Pikachu with a Santa cap, and some new Pokemon are appearing in the game, like Togepi and Pichu, basically following the release of the new Pokemon from the Pokemon movies. Back when they'd have a Pokemon movie and they'd reveal like 2 or 3 new Pokemon, a few months before the next game came out. So they're going to show off a few Pokemon like Togepi and Pichu, and then over the next few months, they'll release all of the Pokemon from Gold and Silver. By the way, do you play Pokemon Go at all, Brian?
I did play it for just a little while, but then I stopped.
Yeah.
Because I think I got up to level 7 before I stopped. So I wasn't really going out that much with my phone, but whenever I was, it was just basically trying to catch all the Pokemon that were out in the area.
Yeah, that's the idea. And, to be honest, I kind of use the game as an excuse to go for a walk. It's a good way to get exercise, right?
It is. I didn't think of that.
I've walked so many kilometers. I'm at level 24, I think, 23 or 24.
Yeah, I think one of the people I work with is on level 24 as well.
Wow. Yeah.
And he might be a little further. This was, say, about 4 months ago.
Oh, yeah. I only got to level 23 like a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, he's probably way further along than me. I got a late start in the game, actually. I didn't start using it until about 2 weeks after it came out. So I missed all the early benefit, but I got to play the game without any glitches. So
right,
that's kind of good.
Yeah, I think I started about a few months ago, but I did hear about a lot of people over in America somewhere looking for Mewtwo on a freeway.
That Pokemon's not even technically released yet, I don't think.
Right. Okay.
But they were like, I think people would often go out and say, "Oh yeah, I found a Charizard. It's over here," and get people to run over there and trolling people. It's kind of funny. There was a lot of news this year about Pokemon Go. That's a whole nother podcast. Let's continue.
Okay.
So there was a fantastic Star Fox fan comic made called Star Fox Lylat Legacy. And it was going on for some time, and I actually posted about it right before Star Fox Zero was supposed to come out. And then, like the next week, the artist decided to cancel it. Excuse me. And he did that because he found that he was spending just all his time working on this comic instead of doing stuff in real life that he wanted to do. So he decided to cancel it, and he actually removed stuff from the internet, which I never encourage. If you do something, leave it there because people may enjoy it even if it's incomplete. And he eventually decided to post it back online. So we now have access to all the Star Fox Lylat Legacy pages that were existing up to that point, and he also finished out that last part of that last comic. And he's like, and this is where I end it. This is the end of the comic. But I hope you enjoyed what you did see. And it was fantastic and well done, and good for him for putting it back out there. Then we found out that the previously Japanese-only Star Fox-related DLC for Monster Hunter Generation finally arrived in the United States. This allowed you to give your character a Fox McCloud jumpsuit, have a blaster, drive in a Landmaster-like tank, and a bunch of other things that were Star Fox related. So that was a nice little cameo for that. Next we had Cake Inferno, aka Gray Firefox, who finally came back online. He posted a new Krystal render at 4K resolution for his Patreon subscribers. So even though he's not really primarily focused on making Krystal renders anymore, he does occasionally do them. And I think he's got some more in the works that are not publicly revealed yet. I'm kind of waiting on them to allow that. And then I'll post them as soon as I have permission to. Let's see. I made a huge change to how the site deals with large files. I put all the files on a new file server, and I moved all files to HTTPS, which makes them secure. And I also fixed a bunch of errors that we had, missing files or files that were uploaded but never linked to, so you could never get to them. Fixed all those errors. So that was part one of a bigger project to update the site to more modern and secure backing. And I still need to make the site go HTTPS. I know how to do it. I just have to sit down and take the time to do it. It's gonna take like a day to do. Let's see. The next bit of news was, okay, so about this time in the year, there were about 2/3 of the way through the year, I finally got around to posting a huge backlog of photos I had received from Ayano. She sent me her official pictures from Further Confusion 2016, Japan's Wonder Festival, another convention that she went to this year, a meetup with other Kigurumi cosplayers in July in Japan. She met up with a bunch of her friends and they did cosplay together. Posted those pictures. And she also sent me some videos, excuse me, where she showed off her newly fixed lighted staff upgrade and her new Gatling gun. Actually, that was later. She just showed off the lighted staff, which had been broken before. Her staff got broken, which Brian's going to tell us about in a little bit. But she got that repaired, and now it's got LED lights in it, so it lights up. And then we finally got some first progress shots on Oxygen Impulse's Crystal Charm that I commissioned. And then Ayano did another huge photo shoot. And this time she did a photo shoot in this futuristic looking hallway with lights everywhere, like she was in a spaceship. And she did photos in her assault jumpsuit, in her command jumpsuit. She did it in her, I think, did she use her adventure? I can't remember if she used her adventure cosplay. She basically did everything, and she did hundreds of poses, and I posted all of them. And they were really good photos.
Yeah, I'm just looking through her photos like on KA. I can only see her command outfit and assault outfit.
Okay. But she was also, she had her staff and her Gatling gun during this.
She did, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you know what? I think, I'm not sure. Yep. Okay, yeah. So earlier in this, I accidentally skipped a story, you guys. So right after the Smashified team did the video live painting with Krystal, Ayano publicly announced that she had finished her command outfit, her command jumpsuit. And she showed it off on her Twitter, and then a few days later, she showed it off publicly for the first time at Japan's Wonder Festival. So that's where that came from. So towards the beginning of the year, she almost made it to further confusion with her command outfit, but she didn't quite finish it in time. Otherwise, there would have been photos from that of the command suit. So yeah, so she sent more pictures for the Star Fox Command's 10th anniversary. She did this huge photo shoot in this spaceship place, and it was really cool with all this cool lighting and Gatling gun and staff, and that was really cool. Okay, next, I went to a local convention here in Austin that was hosted by a friend of mine. It was kind of a Comic-Con / cosplay convention, and it was put on by a friend of mine who runs the local cosplay group. I kind of do a little cosplay, or try and get into it kind of seriously. Not very good yet, but working on it. And I decided to go just to see my friends. I hadn't seen them in a while. And I ran into this girl who did some really good art for really amazing prices. She goes by Manic Bunny, and I had her do a crystal convention, a crystal commission. Like I said, I'm going to do these commissions every time I go to a convention. And I told her, you know, just have fun with it. Make Krystal have just kind of some kind of combat suit, and have her in some kind of fun, like she's enjoying herself, but she's also like in a military type situation. And so she drew her in a Jill Valentine like suit from Resident Evil, and she's doing kind of like a sideways dive while she holds her pistol up at the camera and smiling. You know, it's pretty cute, very cute. I really enjoyed that commission. It was a really good commission. Then we had Mr. Max and his crew hosted a 2-hour-long live stream about their project to create the Dinosaur Planet animated series. Now, when we did that live stream, I accidentally missed the first 30 minutes, unfortunately. I missed out on the first 30 minutes, so I was feeling bad about that. But they were just talking about the project and what the plans were, and who the characters were, who's going to voice different characters. They're going to do it kind of like an animated comic book style. So it's not going to be fully animated. They're going to have little bits of animation in each scene, but each frame is mostly static. And it's going to have voice work, and they showed off some example animation. And then they had the question and answer session, which went off the rails rather quickly. And that was partially my fault. Were you on that? Were you in on that?
Well, I was actually connected to it a while before, but yeah, I managed to see the whole thing.
So I think when they finally finished their little talk, they said, "Who?" So anyone have any questions? And I asked my question. I think I said it was just Mr. Krystal. It's like, "Hey, Krystal, you know, the character who played Krystal, will you marry me?" And then somebody kept posting pictures of Randorn, the wizard Randorn, overlaid his face on top of like these bikini models, and posted those in the chat room.
Oh, right.
and it got out of hand really fast.
Yeah,
But
I didn't
it was a
see
lot
that.
of fun. It was a lot of fun. And I checked their Tumblr recently, like a couple days ago, and they're still working on the project. Slow going. I don't know how far they are towards getting the first episode, but they're still working on it. So good for them. I hope they get their first episode made pretty soon. Okay, next we've got. I was watching, as I often do, the Apple press conference. A few months ago, looking forward to what my next laptop is going to be. And Nintendo, surprisingly, came up on stage, and they had Miyamoto came up on Apple stage and introduced Super Mario Run, Nintendo's, I guess, third major installment into the mobile games platform. And they showed off this Mario game, which was a surprise to everybody. Nobody was even hearing about this, a Mario game for the iPhone. And at first it seemed kind of lame, but the more we've looked at it, it actually looks like it's a pretty good game. It captures the spirit of Mario without the directional pad and the buttons. You can still feel like you're doing real platforming with just one button. They did a really cool job with that. So I'm looking forward to trying it. There's going to be a demo available for Super Mario Run coming out, I think, on the 15th, and it's free. And then if you like the game, you can pay $10 and get the entire rest of the game one-time cost. That's the whole game. There's no microtransactions or anything like that, as I understand. So I might be getting that. I'm not sure. Do you have an iPhone or you use Android?
Mine's an Android.
Well, I'm sure they'll bring it to Android eventually. It's just a matter of time.
Yep.
So let's take. So we've done a bunch of news stories. Is there anything you want to talk about that we just mentioned so far? I'm going to check and see if the chat has anything to say.
The only thing I can think of is the short video that we covered about Ayano showing off staff upgrades. That first one was just a test.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked ahead. There's some other ones coming up now. Yeah, nothing other than that so far.
Okay. I'm checking the chat. I'm checking the chat, and people are talking about how they might make a Krystal game using Unity, and their ideas for what an ideal Krystal or Star Fox game would be. Mass Effect style open world, hand-to-hand staff combat, and without a totally disappointing ending.
Yeah, I noticed someone posted that as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're almost to the end of the news for this year, so let's trudge on. We're almost done. Okay. So we posted 2 new videos of Ayano showing off her new staff, the upgraded staff, and also the Gatling gun, which now, in addition to rotating and having sounds, also has lights now. So more LEDs. That's always good in props. Oxygen Impulse finally finished the Krystal Charms, and in addition to making the Adventurous style, she decided to make all the other styles. So you can actually buy a Star Fox Adventures, Star Fox Assault, Star Fox Command Krystal, and any one of them can also have a staff and or a stand, a magnetic stand that she can stand on. And I don't remember. Is there also the ability to give her a gun? I can't remember. Is there a way to give her a gun, like a blaster? Maybe.
Possibly.
She's open to customization, so you can purchase it. Now, unfortunately, even though all these styles are available, she had to increase the price. So instead of costing like $30 or $40, it's closer to $60 to $90, depending on what type of paint job she gets, because the character is so complicated. And I actually have mine right here. I'm going to show it to the camera. I finally got my Krystal commission, and this is the original, and it is the Star Fox Adventures Krystal. There you go.
And it's just freezing on my end again. Hey.
There you go. and you see the tail is attached with a little.
Right.
So you can see that she's got the whole thing, and everything's painted. She's got the tattoos. She's got the tattoos on here. So just a remarkable amount of detail for how small this is. But this is actually a very, very large charm. This is larger than I was expecting by quite a bit, and it's actually quite hefty. It's a hefty charm, and it came with this nice little chain to attach to her head if you wanted to do that, right? So, well, you can't really see it on the camera, but it does stand up on its own. It doesn't need a stand to hold it up. It actually can stand up on its own. So, really remarkable job, great paint job. Very happy with it, and I also I've seen photos of the assault and the command one, and they also look great. So if you want one, they're still available. She can always make more, as many as you want. They're just made to order. So you tell her what you want, and she can get you one. Okay, Eno Stupid. YouTube user Eno Stupid recreated a giant crystal statue in Minecraft. It looks pretty much like the trophy from Super Smash Brothers Brawl, but as giant blocks. So that was pretty cool. Then we found out about Abby Davis, who started making a Patreon-supported Star Fox Adventures comic, and right now it seems to be focused on a very young Krystal, like Krystal as a young girl trapped on Dinosaur Planet, and the Cloud Runners are trying to help her out, and she's just scared and running away from them. That's where she's at so far. The comic pages continue on the Tumblr, and you can see more art and in progress shots by supporting her on Patreon. And the next big piece of news, the huge news, is we finally got to see what the Nintendo Switch looked like, which was formerly the Nintendo NX. And it is, as the rumors portrayed, a portable console. A console that can be taken up as a tablet with detachable controllers and lots of different play styles and modes, and apparently very good graphics for portable. Depending on what processor they're using, it may even be able to support 4K video right out of the box. Excuse me, no special edition or anything. Just the original one might be able to do 4K gaming, at least some kind of gaming, some kind of simplified games. You know, depending on what kind of graphics you use, it will determine how much resolution you can do. But I don't think it's going to be limited to 1080p. But that all depends on what kind of processor you use. They're using some kind of custom NVIDIA processor, but it looks really good, and people are really excited about it. So actually, they're more excited about it than I expected them to be. So good for Nintendo for figuring out what to do right after apparently not figuring out what to do right with the Nintendo Wii U in a lot of different ways. So they showed a lot of interest ideas. Nothing about Star Fox yet, but you know, we're going to get to see a lot of the launch games and the price and all that stuff in January. And that leaves E3 completely open. What's going to happen at E3? Maybe we'll find out what the next Star Fox game is. Who knows? Next, we got Lucas JG, 1994, sent in another musical arrangement. This time, he did the piano arrangement for the Krazoa Palace theme, and you can download the music sheet. Excuse me, sorry. My alarm's going off.
Oh, I thought you were playing the Krystal Palace theme.
No. So it turns out that it's time for my daily meeting at work, but I'm not at work because I'm home, you know, resting from surgery. So I forgot to turn that off. My apologies. Okay, next, I posted an amazing live sculpt video by Sculpture Geek, where he meticulously creates a 6 or 7 inch tall Fox McCloud bust with details down to the individual fur striping on his muzzle and like the texture of the nose. It's an amazing clay sculpture, and he does these sculptures for a lot of different characters from a lot of different games. And this time he just decided to do Fox McCloud, and he did a really good job, and I highly recommend that video. Next, I announced that in my ever-increasing attempt to bring the Krystal Archive news in different places, in addition to posting stuff to Twitter, I'm now posting stuff to a new social media site called Gab AI, which is kind of like Twitter, except you can type longer things, and they don't care what you type. It's free speech. And incidentally, it was private. You know, you had to have an account to see what I posted, but they just made it so you can actually have it public. So you can see whatever I post. You can't respond to it without an account, but you can see my Krystal Archive posts on Gab. And there are links on the site, but it's also gab.ai/Krystal Archive. I posted a couple of videos by Undying Nephilim, where he showed his slow progress towards Star Fox Event Horizon, his fan game. It's not his primary focus right now, but he continues to work on it on the side as he has time between working on his other major games, namely Hyrule Total War, which is kind of like it's kind of like a the Legend of Zelda Hyrule Warriors type game before that game actually came out. Then I informed everyone of my surgery, which I just mentioned. Then we watched the 2016 Game Awards together, and it was a great show. Brian was there. Except for the rappers, I think it was a great show. They had a musical guest, and this time their musical guest was a bunch of rappers, and they were not good. Not good at all. It was like they were trying to say the most offensive things. They were trying to use like every curse word out there just because, you know, it just didn't. It didn't. I mean, I can appreciate some rap, but that was not it. That was not it at all. So, but otherwise, it had some great stuff. They showed off more Zelda footage from the Switch, and they also showed off Mr. Hideo Kojima's new game. Now that he's no longer allowed to work on the Metal Gear series, he showed off his new series, which is called Death Stranding, which is just a really thought-provoking and weird trailer. But I encourage you to watch it just for the strangeness of it. Brian, do you have any comments about the Game Awards show you want to talk about?
Well, I was hoping to see a Star Fox game there. I was quite disappointed that there wasn't. Also, no Sonic the Hedgehog game either. I was hoping to see at least one. But despite that, on the whole, as you said, except for the rappers, it was quite a good show.
Yeah. The guy who runs the Game Awards show, he really does truly enjoy games. He's not like the Spike TV Game Awards of years past, where they got a bunch of people who don't play games and decided to have a game show. This guy actually does care about games. And so if you haven't seen the Game Awards show, and not just this year's, go back and watch last year's and the years before that. There's been 3 so far now, I think. They're just really, really well done. And you get to see some games that you otherwise wouldn't get to see. You know, indie titles that may have fallen below your radar, or games for other systems that you don't play. It gives you a good way to see why it is that other gamers like those games. You know, I think it's important, even though you and I may be big Nintendo and Sonic fans, let's say.
Yeah.
I think it's important to be at least aware of what the rest of the game industry is doing.
Oh,
so
yeah,
you have a
definitely.
good perspective. Yeah. All right. So around this time, now that I knew I was going to have surgery, I decided to try and quickly do as many news posts as I could, which was fortunate because we had a lot of news just in the last week, very quickly. So this is all stuff that happened like last week. So Star Fox Zero was put on sale digitally. If you buy it digitally, you can buy the game for $35. I think, I'm not sure, but that sale may still be going on. So if you haven't purchased Star Fox Zero yet, you can get it for the low price of $39. Lyric Wolf played a rendition of Krystal's theme from Star Fox Command on piano. He actually posted that a month ago, but I finally found out about it during the Game Awards. I think, yeah, Brian, you mentioned that to me, right?
Yes, I did.
So Brian mentioned it in the chat, and I was like, I'm going to post that. So I posted it, and it's good. Well done. There were some rumors surfaced that the Nintendo Switch would be capable of playing GameCube games via Virtual Console. The initial games are supposed to be Super Mario Sunshine, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and one other. Oh, Luigi's Mansion. But that opens up the door to having Star Fox Adventures and Star Fox Assault as playable games on the Switch, which many people, they're Star Fox fans, would have liked to do. I mean, we've seen Star Fox 64 re-released several times. The original Star Fox has never been re-released because of the strange Super FX chip that it uses. But there's no reason they couldn't emulate it now. I just don't think they've gotten around to it. And then as far as games go with the GameCube games, Star Fox Adventures is going to be a little bit difficult to emulate because it used the full power of the GameCube's graphical hardware. But I think that Star Fox Assault should be relatively easy to port to Virtual Console. And I'm sure they could do Star Fox Adventures if they put their mind to it, put some effort into it. I'm sure they could do it. It's probably not going to be the first game, since it was certainly not the most popular game. They'd probably be more focused on making, say, Metroid Prime 2. They're really big franchise hits, more so than Star Fox Adventures, unfortunately. That's just the way it is. Star Fox Adventure was not the most popular GameCube game. There's no getting around that one. Then we had the rumor that there was in discussion a Star Fox Warriors game. Koei Tecmo expressed interest to Nintendo to make another another Warriors game, very much like their Hyrule Warriors game, and they actually said, you know what, I think we could do it with Star Fox. Apparently Nintendo shot down the idea because of questions of what to do with the future of the Star Fox brand. Some people have interpreted that to mean that Nintendo is like going to shut down Star Fox. Others are saying, no, it just means that Nintendo doesn't know what they want to do with Star Fox, which is always the case, apparently. They don't know what they want to do. Miyamoto himself has said in the past that he's not sure what he wants to do with Star Fox. And that's why it took him so long to make Star Fox Zero, which in the end was not as successfully as he hoped. So we'll see what that means. But it is interesting that they tried it, and it was going to be some kind of melee-based combat with a little bit of space battles. So more adventure-like, which if that game had come out, Krystal would definitely have been a playable character. So a lot of fans were on the site were kind of disappointed to hear that we had a chance for a Krystal in a Star Fox game, and it didn't happen. Did you have any thoughts on that, Brian? This is a big news last week.
Yeah, I would have really liked to see a game like that coming out. That would get it in within an hour. But, well, if it does come out, that'd be great. It's one of the things I'll be looking out for, just in case.
Okay. So, just a second.
Oh.
Somebody. So, Yeah, it's very bright. You can see my face really well. That's because I'm actually right in front of an open window. And so I'm looking outside, and there's this guy, and he came up, and I think he's one of those guys who puts like advertisements on your front door. I was afraid somebody's going to come up and start knocking on the door, and I was going to have to go answer it. But it looks like it's just he just put something on the door and left. I don't think he even saw me. I'm just sitting here in the window, like looking right at him. So sorry about that, guys. A little distraction. I'm not on the third floor of an apartment. I'm on the ground floor of a house. So everything that happens outside, I see it right away. Anyway. Okay, the third major rumor that we got last week was, now this rumor has been around for a while, that Nintendo is going to port some games to the Switch from the Wii U that didn't get the attention they deserved because the Wii U was not as popular as they had hoped. Excuse me. And that was, we know from the trailer for the Switch that they're going to port Mario Kart, and they're going to port Splatoon. We know that already. It looks like they're going to just take the existing game, add some new features and some new modes, and maybe slightly improve the graphics and re-release them. Okay, which I think is a fantastic idea. You've got these games that people really love but are not as exposed as they could be. Hey, make them get day one games for your new system. Fantastic idea. Well, anyway, since that time, there's been a rumor, and a good one at that, that says that the Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U will also get the same treatment. It's going to be ported to the Switch. And I thought that was a great idea. And not just that, I personally think that it's a good idea if they, rather than making a new Smash Bros. Game every 5 years or whatever it is for every new system, since they've already got a really good base with good physics, people actually like this game. They really like the way the fights work. I think rather than making a new Smash Bros. Game next time, that they should just focus on DLC. Just keep adding to their existing product. Because it's not like Smash Bros. Gets old. Smash Bros. Doesn't get old. You don't play Smash Bros. And then you get tired of it. It's always a good party game. You always enjoy playing it. So why not have the release schedule kind of reflect that by having more DLC as once a year. Well, anyway, that's kind of what this rumor is saying to an extent. It's saying that when they port it, they're going to actually bring in some new content, including some new characters. Not many. The rumor says not many, but it says that they're going to bring 1, 2, maybe 3 new characters when they port it over to the Switch. Now, who could be the character? I don't know. We've tried to get Krystal in there like 3 times now. So I said, like before, I'm not getting my hopes up, but wouldn't it be great if Krystal made it? And I invited everybody to come, discuss, argue, and have your dreams ultimately crushed when we find out that Krystal is not, in fact, going to be in it. But it could happen. She's always been consistently asked for, and Mr. Sakurai, the man who makes Smash Brothers, has been asked about Krystal before, and he said that she was considered, and ultimately they didn't put her in because of time reasons. They didn't have time to get her in to Super Smash Brothers Brawl because she would have represented a huge amount of moves that would have to be different. Whereas if they put Wolf in, they were able to put Wolf in without making much change mechanically to how FJ McCloud played and how Falco played. So that's why we got Wolf instead of Krystal, apparently. And we only found that out recently with a recently translated Japanese interview. So yeah, could have Krystal in Smash Brothers. Who knows? That's exciting, but also you got to temper your expectations so you don't get depressed if it doesn't happen. So I just kind of I like to see what happens, and if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm trying not to let myself get too wound up in anything. Same for you, Brian?
Yeah, I'll be keeping an eye out for the next petition where they ask which character you'd like in the next game. How many sure to vote for Krystal as well.
I don't know if they're going to do a petition this time.
Oh.
They haven't mentioned anything about it anyway.
Oh.
It wouldn't surprise me if they have already decided some things from the previous petition. Because remember, they did the previous petition and they ultimately picked one character, Bayonetta, which is not a bad choice, in my opinion, but it is it was unexpected. To be sure. All right, so as often happens when I post a lot of stuff on the Krystal Archive, I got lots of emails from people with some information for me. And a guy named Mr. Brownstone from Germany got a copy of a 2002 German game article talking about Star Fox Adventures. And he translated it for us and talked about it, about how the game magazine looked at the Star Fox Adventures favorably and noticed the similarities between Star Fox Adventures and the Zelda games, and didn't treat that as a negative, as a lot of the American media did. You know, it's like, Star Fox Adventures, you're not flying in a spaceship. This isn't a Star Fox game. So he was pleasantly surprised that the German media liked the Adventures game, and he tells me that the German gamers really like Krystal as a character, more so, I think, statistically than the American game players do. Next we had, we had an interview with Mr. Miyamoto. Mr. Miyamoto, after revealing Nintendo's plans to do theme parks with Universal Studios and going on the Jimmy Fallon show, the late night show with Jimmy Fallon, and showing off the Switch and Super Mario Run, Miyamoto did a bunch of interviews with different people because he was in America, you know, and they had him set up to do interviews with people. And when being interviewed with someone at the Apple headquarters, I can't remember her name, but someone at the Apple headquarters was interviewing about Super Mario Run, and they asked him about the behind the scenes of how to make games and how they make games and what they were thinking about the Super Mario Run and all this stuff. And at the end of the interview, she asked, what character, you know, because Mario is so popular, what character did he wish was more popular that he worked on that ultimately didn't become that popular? And he said right away, he said, you know, I wish that Fox McCloud was cooler. You know, I really wanted Fox McCloud to be a cool character, and he's not been as accepted as I'd hoped he would be, and so I need to kind of focus on him more. And that's maybe encouraging. Maybe he's learned something from his what happened with the Star Fox Zero, and he's like, okay, well, that didn't work. Let's try this other thing. Sorry, I really have to put my phone in another room when I do a podcast. It's terrible planning on my part. So anyway, so he's looking to put more energy into the Star Fox and Pikmin series, long story short. So, you know, what does that mean? Could we see the beginnings of a beta footage for the next Star Fox game at E3? I think it's probably a little too early for that, but it's in the next couple of years, we may see Star Fox again, in spite of the relative lack of success with Star Fox Zero. And the last thing I have is I just wanted to mention, I didn't mention these in order, but I just wanted to mention that there were several really good Star Fox related fan films that came out on the internet this year. We had In Game by Mega Steakman, Star Fox Zero versus Star Wars Battlefront, Battle for Earth by King Bob Videos, and one of my favorites, Star Fox Paint by Toasty King. Star Fox Paint actually features Krystal and voice acting, and it's pretty funny. And so whenever I see a good Star Fox animation, I like to put it on the site too. So there you go. That's 2016 in a nutshell. A very, very long nutshell that takes apparently an hour and a half to talk about. Has it really been an hour and a half already? Man.
Yeah, almost.
So, with that done, let's go back and talk about individually some of the more important stories. Now, Brian went to Further Confusion this year, and I want him to tell us about the experience of going on the trip. Remember, he's from the UK, and so he had to travel to California, and he's got some stuff to talk about the trip, the parade, following Ayano around, videotaping her, photographs, hang out with FJ McCloud. We have a couple of incidents that we're not allowed to show, but I think you can talk about them.
Yeah.
And just talk about the different outfits that she wore, and just any stories you have about the trip. We'd love to hear about your, hear about your Further Confusion 2016 experience. So it's all yours, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. K. The trip, getting there was a slight hiccup in that my flight at London Heathrow was a bit delayed for a longer layover than I had in Fort Worth, Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I got to Dallas, I had to spend the night over there. Not actually that far from where Furry Fiesta is.
Right.
But yeah, there was not really that big of a problem. I managed to catch a flight out the next morning, the rest of the way to California, and luckily I made it in time for the con. The Thursday, I didn't see Ayano there on the Thursday, cosplaying as Krystal, but I did manage to see a few other fursuiters there, and as usual, I went round gathering photos and footage. The footage I've got of the other fursuiters is on my YouTube channel, along with the parade as well. Friday.
We posted the parade already.
Yes.
We posted your parade footage on the site.
Friday. That was the first day I saw Ayano, and she was wearing her assault costume there. I think at that point it was newly upgraded from Furry Fiesta 2015.
It was. It features some a more shiny material, right?
It does, yeah. And also that plastic thing she had on her back at Furry Fiesta, she had that removed as well. And she had her staff with her as well. Something that happened on Friday. Yeah, same as Furry Fiesta, we went round the con at first, posing for photos and going in the main hall. We actually did like a mini photo shoot with her leaning against one of the pillars.
Cool.
So that's one set of photos. Did I give any of them to you? Yes.
You gave me some. We'll talk about the totality of the photos later, but yeah, we posted some of your photos.
Yeah, just can't remember if there were any from the Friday in there, but it's okay though.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, we went outside of the convention center through to the Hilton at first, and then around both the hotels and the convention center to what looked like a picnic area, where at one point there was a lot of pigeons around. They seemed to be like gathering in just one spot, and if there was one phrase I had in my head, it was, okay, I think I know where this is going. It's a bit like waiting for a bomb to go off. I mean, you know it's going to happen, but you don't know when. So, yeah, in the meantime, the children that were nearby, they kept on asking questions, well, just a few of them. and talking about which games Krystal was from. During that point, a few more pigeons came into the pile, and then as I knew it, they all just seemed to just take off. I don't know whether anything spooked them, but yeah, they started to fly up, and then 1 second after that, they headed straight for us. Me and Ayano and a friend of hers who was also with us. Ayano was the only one of the three of us who didn't duck. So, yeah, she was the only one who didn't get spooked by them.
And he actually sent me a video of this, and we posted it on the site, but we had to take it down because the footage showed the friend of Ayano who was with us or with you at the time wanted to stay private, so we respect their wishes and we took the video down.
Yeah, I got the email from Ayano about that the morning after we posted it, and since he was in the majority of that clip, we couldn't show all of it.
Right.
So that's going to be the same of my final edited video of Friday's footage, in which he's not going to appear in that, and I've had to edit out the main part of that clip as well.
Let's continue on with your discussion of what happened day by day, and then you can talk about the videos that you're working on.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically what happened on Friday. Saturday was actually the first time that I saw FJ McCloud there cosplaying as Fox. Actually, I didn't see him during the parade, and there is a good reason for that. I'll come to that later as well. But yeah, shortly after the parade, I did see Krystal and Fox there when they came out of the ballroom, and I managed to get a few photos of them, and actually 2 with them as well. And yeah, that was all for that. That was Saturday afternoon. She also came back to the con Saturday evening as well in her yukata outfit.
It's like a kimono. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I pronounce that right? Kimono? Yeah.
Yeah, kimono.
Yeah.
Did I pronounce yukata right? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I was also joined by Data Hog Wezog there. We had met, I think, on the Thursday as well, and we kept on occasionally bumping into each other. But yeah, he and I went round with Ayano Saturday night. Nothing really happened there apart from a serious wardrobe malfunction, which I'll explain in detail as well later on. Then comes Sunday, which in one of my guest posts on Krystal Archive was, as I called it, Krystal and Fox Day. In the afternoon, Fox joined Krystal as we went around the convention. One good thing which happened in the main hall is that another, I think it was a cosplayer, but I'm not sure, but he also had the same thing on his wrist which Fox McCloud had.
The Nintendo Power Glove, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. He started playing the theme tune to Corneria from the original Star Fox game on his mobile in the background, which Fox McCloud started to dance to, and then Krystal joined in. I managed to get most of the footage there. I can remember I had to change the battery about halfway through. So, if anything, I only missed a couple of minutes, but I got most of it. And yeah, also, as I said, shortly after that, Krystal did a dance of her own, and I got all of that.
Lovely. Was that the end of the show? Was Sunday night?
Sunday night, yeah. Ayano came back to the con on Sunday night in her yellow swimsuit.
Oh,
yeah. And I think I can't remember seeing this in any other video of when she was at the convention in the past, but I think that was the first time that she went into one of those disco dances.
oh. Now, see,
Yeah.
Brian sends me his footage and photos, and I had not seen that part yet. So I don't. You haven't sent me Sunday night yet, have you?
I did. I did send it, not directly. It is one of the videos that you've seen.
So I haven't seen it yet. So
oh,
so maybe this is a good time to discuss what we're talking about.
yeah.
So Brian has recorded, hours and hours of footage, and also hundreds and hundreds of photos.
Mm.
And he and I are working together to try and edit them and make them nice so we can post them on the site. And it's a little tricky sometimes because there are certain individuals who do not want to be seen.
Mm.
And as you mentioned, there's maybe a slight wardrobe malfunction that we're going to talk about that we need to edit for.
Yeah.
And so he and I have been sending information back and forth. In this case, he's sending me videos and pictures, and I have to review them. And well, like I said, it's hours and hours of footage, so it takes a little while to go through. And so this is news to me. I did not know that she did the swimsuit edition on Sunday night. I didn't see that yet. So that, I believe you're right. I think that is the first time that she's publicly appeared at a convention wearing that. She's done photo shoots in that before, but never a convention that I know.
Mm. Yeah, that was. I've split all of my footage into 6 different videos, one for each time I saw her. So the one where she wears her swimsuit is video number 6, which is the last one.
Okay. I haven't seen that yet. So.
Right. So.
And by the way, the other thing involved is Brian was telling me something about copyright claims that's having a problem.
Yeah. Hopefully that's all sorted. But yeah, what I've been doing up until now is uploading my finished videos to YouTube. Once Ayano has told me that they were okay. The one in which Ayano wore her yellow swimsuit, as she visited the disco, there were about 4 songs playing in the background. 2 of them were considered copyright content, so I had to take them down off YouTube and then edit those scenes out. So all I've done is just muted those parts. And it took the 3 or 4 attempts to get it back up with no trouble.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And that's not really fair because you don't have any control over what they're playing, But
exactly.
But that's the way the copyright system works, apparently, with YouTube videos.
Yeah, and I would prefer not having any red flags on my accounts.
Of course. So I just want to point out that we're in December of 2016, and all these videos and photos were taken in January of 2016. So it's taken almost a year, and we're still not quite finished editing and getting approval, right? Because he also likes to run them by Ayano to make sure she's okay with what we posted. And in this case, it's all Brian, right? Because he's the one doing the footage this year. But last year, both Brian and I both had separate videos, or maybe it was 2 years ago. But we had separate videos that both needed to be approved. And generally, Ayano approves of most things. It's just the sometimes her friends like to keep themselves private
Mm.
and not appear on video.
Yep. There are still 2 videos that I'm working on. The one from Friday and the one from Saturday night. At this point, I am finished with both of them. I have sent them to Ayano for approval. Only I haven't heard anything from her yet at this point, so I'm still waiting on that.
Let's talk about.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, hopefully it shouldn't be too much longer before they're up.
Yeah, and once we do, I'll be of course happy to post them on the Krystal Archive. There are 2 other things I know of about this stuff. One is the Yukata thing. So why don't you tell me let's talk about that, because this is kind of a tricky subject.
About halfway through Saturday night, when as Ayano and I were walking around, part of her yukata came loose, and I could see some like censored areas. So I had to use a black circle on my editor to cover those parts up. Only it was a little complicated with the editor that I've got. It doesn't let me do much with the black circles. All I could do was choose the color of it. So I just went with black, and also resize the length and the width. So there were some areas in using that black circle which it was difficult in, but I managed to get it done.
So let's talk about what happened here. So this is a yukata, or a kimono is a robe-like. It's a robe, basically a Japanese robe that's primarily worn in the summer. It's designed to be very light and very airy, so it's cool. You know, it keeps you cool in the hot summer days. And originally, it's tight, and it does like this little V thing. But as she walked around, it started to come a little loose, and nothing super explicit, you know, but enough to where I was concerned about posting it on the Krystal Archive. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's no real good way to do with this. You can put black circles there, which is what he's doing, but you know, it's not like you can go back and fix it and make it like tight again. The choices were either to show the black circle or to cut those parts out entirely, which it seems would have been a significant amount of video.
It would, yeah.
So that's the unfortunate choices we have to make sometimes. The other incident was the staff. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
You don't have to mention any names, just what happened.
All right. Shortly after Krystal and Fox were dancing in the main hall, we went outside to the balcony area. Not sure if it has a name, but oh wait, it did, but I can't remember it. But anyway, we went over to the back to get some more photos of both Krystal and Fox. Ayano had placed her staff against a plant pot that was nearby. And yeah, a few minutes later, something happened with the plant pot, because once that moved, her staff also moved as well, and just went straight down on the ground and then broke.
Did it shatter, or did it just break into a single piece off or something?
Luckily, it didn't shatter, but a couple of pieces broke. There was one of those like little blue lights like on the top, on the side, that came straight off, and one of the bits on the side at the top, like on the tip of the staff, that also came loose as well. So
that was the reason why Ayano had to repair her staff, and why it now has LED lights in it.
Yeah.
So it got fixed. thankfully.
It did, yeah.
There's one other bit of thing about this, and that is the photos. So he took a ton of photos, and
I
so
did.
and so did Ayano, and so did Data Warehog, Data
Mm.
Hog, Weshog. I think, is that how you say it? How's it?
Uh,
Data Hog.
Daytime, where's Og? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he took a bunch of photos and he sent those to me. Now
Mm.
it's rapidly becoming where most of the images, in terms of the sheer number of images on the entire Krystal Archive site, is now Ayano. There's so many photos of her. She is very photogenic, and she goes to a lot of conventions, and so as a result, it may become prohibitively difficult to post all of her photos. So what Brian and I are thinking about doing is combining all of our images from all the conventions and everything that we've ever done, everything that I've been allowed to post, everything Ayano sends me, and put them in one dedicated photo account, either Google Photos or Flickr Photos or something like that. But basically offload the image part to a image hosting website, and they'll do it for us. And then we'll keep them in galleries, right? So you'll be able to say, oh yes, this is Ayano at Wonder Festival 2016. This is Ayano at Further Confusion 2015, whatever. But put most of the photos on there, and that's going to be a huge project. We're talking probably several thousand images here. And that's just ours. There's hundreds and hundreds of images that are not our photos that other people on the internet have posted. That will not be in that collection because we don't have permission to post other people's. But yeah, so that may be coming. And Brian, I think, has sent me most of his photos from this most recent trip. So that'll definitely make part of the collection once we do get that online. Brian, let's take this opportunity. Brian has got some videos some other videos that he'd like to plug about their playthroughs.
Oh yes, I've wanted to record my gameplay for quite a while. I just never had the opportunity. But then either before Further Confusion or Furry Fiesta last year, then I managed to get the opportunity. Learned how the capture card that I've got works, and then I said to myself, what's the best game to start with? And I just looked straight away. I looked at Star Fox Adventures, so I started with that one. All of that playthrough is up on my channel to view, and I've also got about just over halfway with Star Fox Assault, so that's still an ongoing playthrough. And I will also be doing a playthrough of Star Fox Zero as well. Yeah, I'm still getting to grips with that game, and I haven't completed it yet.
So you also your playthroughs, you do one version with commentary and one without, right?
I do, yeah. When I started, I knew that some people do enjoy looking at playthroughs like that with the commentary, and some people like to play it without it. So I thought by uploading both versions of it, that everybody wins, kind of.
Yeah, that's great. I want to mention that he sent them to me a little bit before that they were public, and I watched through quite a bit of the Adventures playthrough, and Brian has a very deep understanding of Star Fox Adventures, so he knows exactly what to do and where. Whereas, I played through the game 3 or 4 times, but even I learned some new things as far as what you can do and the timing of certain attacks and stuff like that. So if you are interested in just learning a lot about the game, try the commentary. He explains everything he's doing in detail.
Uh,
Yeah. So so you mentioned Star Fox Zero. Let's talk about that. So Star Fox Zero came out. Now,
yeah.
I was a bit unfortunate. I spent so much time working on posting news for Star Fox Zero that the day it came out, I had already injured my hands, and I was only able to play a very short time of it, just the first couple of levels. And because of various family issues, I actually haven't really played the game much since then. It's to my great shame. That's one of the reasons why I didn't do this podcast more recently, is hoping to have at least beaten Star Fox Zero so I could talk about it on the next podcast. And look at me, still haven't beaten the game, and it's been out for several months. But Brian here has played it quite a bit more than me, so I'd like, Brian, if you would, to talk about your experience with Star Fox Zero.
Yeah. I too haven't beaten the game still. The farthest I've got in the story mode is level 7, which is Sector Gamma, as it's called. I haven't got past that one. I have played it on and off in the last few months, but most of all is the area that I played most is the training for the gyro wings, because I'm still getting used to the controls on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm getting there. And there's also, I think it was level Zones, if that's the right way to pronounce it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I should give anything away.
I think it's been long enough.
All right. The only character that I've seen other than the team and General Pepper is Cat Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
She manages to get herself trapped in one of the generators on Zones. One of the tasks in that stage is to release her from that generator. That was also covered in Dylan Cuthbert's video of him playing Star Fox Zero as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, unfortunately, that's just about as far as I've got so far.
I think I have played that level. Kat is got the same voice as she did back in N64 days, and she's still a tease. Only this time she's teasing Fox instead of Falco. So,
yeah.
Yeah, it is a graphically amazing game, an amazing looking game. I just need to take the time to sit down and play it. I think I'll have some time to do so since I'm not working. I'm recovering. I can't.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't be typing, but using my thumbs is probably okay. So maybe in a couple days I'll give it a shot again before Christmas.
And I'll try and free up some time to play it more and hopefully try and beat the game soon.
Okay. So I think we talked about most of the other stuff we were planning to discuss in detail during the actual news segment. So let's move on to what's coming up soon. It's been we're rapidly approaching the 2-hour mark, and I don't want to go too long. So let's talk about what's coming up next. So as I said, I got the Crystal Charm. I've shown it to the camera. I need to make a post about that, receiving that. Let's see. Just like the German reader who sent in the German article about the Star Fox Adventures, I actually have a Japanese translated interview from site reader Hiro, I'm going to pronounce it Hiro, who has an interview with the creators of Star Fox Assault. And this is interesting because they talk about behind the scenes, like what it was like making Star Fox Assault and the decisions they made. Most interestingly, they were looking to make the switching between vehicles, switching between land and Landmaster, or on foot and Landmaster, or switching between on foot and R-Wing during the missions. They talked about it as one of the that is one of the main gameplay mechanics that they were aiming for with the game, which I thought was very interesting because I found that to be the most annoying part of Star Fox Assault, is to have to constantly manage what vehicle I'm in rather than just, you know, going around and shooting things, which is much easier by comparison. So I'll be posting that article and the translation provided by Jairo. We have, let's see. We have, since I won't be able to type much, I can still use my right hand to use like the arrow keys and stuff. So what I will be doing, hopefully sometime this week, is going through the remainder of the Star Fox Assault audio that we ripped, you know, 2 years ago when I did my presentation at Furry Fiesta, and go through, finish reviewing it, excuse me, and finally post that on the site. So we'll finally be able to replace all the Krystal audio from Assault with direct feed audio, as well as all the other Star Fox characters for that matter. So I can get some of that done. I started looking at emulation again. As you know, I did emulation to get the HD versions of Star Fox Adventures cutscenes, and I need to do the same for Star Fox Assault. But you know, YouTube's been improving their technology again. Just before I released the Star Fox Adventures videos, they made available the ability to upload 1080p 60 FPS video. Well, now YouTube has the capacity to do 4K video at 60 frames per second, and even 8K video. And I thought, what a great test to use the emulator. I'm going to use the emulator to record 8K Star Fox Adventures cutscenes and upload them to YouTube. I don't have a computer capable of watching them, but I can make them. So it would be an interesting experience to put that up there. One of the very few 8K videos on the entire internet is going to be Star Fox Adventures, which I think will bring some awareness to Krystal that she wouldn't otherwise get. Unfortunately, the emulator is actually broken right now. You can't break. I tried it. They just recently made it so you could record like 8K video, and so I tried it and it doesn't work. And I've tried it and I found out why. And I posted a bug to the emulator thing, and they've already fixed it. Good for them. They're on the ball. They fixed the emulator, but it's not been released yet. So as soon as that releases, I can start recording 8K Star Fox Adventures footage. Oh, by the way, for those of you who don't know, so 1080p is full HD. That's 1080 lines of vertical resolution, top to bottom, and usually about 1920 pixels wide. If you were to take 4 of those screens and put them in a grid, that would be 4K. If you were to take 4 of the 4K screens and put them in a grid, that's 8K. So it's like something like 16 million pixels or something like that. It's ridiculous. But because it's an emulator and it's digital 3D animation, there's no limit to how big the resolution can be. The textures won't look that great, and the lines will be kind of harsh because they're low poly models, but the video will be sharp and crisp at 8K. So that's kind of like a little experiment for fun that I'm doing. And I thought, you know, why not, you know? So let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is a big one that I've been kind of sitting on because I haven't had time to post it. For probably more than a year now, there was a Skyrim mod for Krystal. You could actually play as Krystal in Skyrim, which is a great use of the character. Unfortunately, I couldn't post about it because the original poster, where he posted it, even though it is a completely family-friendly mod, it explicitly says you can't use this mod to do any kind of adult material, you know. So like I think that the clothing on Krystal is baked in to the model, so it's like you can't even remove it even if you wanted it to. Okay, So it's a very clean mod, but it was hosted on a website that is dedicated to adult mods of Skyrim. So obviously I couldn't link to that. But I managed to get in contact with the creator of the mod, and he gave me permission to post it. So as soon as I get a chance to test it myself, I'll be posting that on the site, and you'll be able to download and play the Skyrim mod. So that's good. I actually do play Skyrim, one of the few games that there are Krystal mods for that I actually play. So I may do that more often. Let's see. The next thing is, so some people were contacting me via email asking me about Little Dragon over the years. Little Dragon is the person who, in combination with help from Charlie Fox, made what is probably the most popular Krystal animated rig out there. Even more popular than Gray Firefox's rig for Maya. Anyway, Little Dragon has just disappeared. No one knows where he went. I finally got in contact with Charlie Fox a couple of days ago, and he says, yeah, I don't even have his email. He says that Little Dragon is eccentric, and he doesn't know where he is, and he may have just left the internet. So, you know, I don't have any more information. I had 2 email addresses for Little Dragon, and neither of them work anymore. So I cannot contact Little Dragon myself. But I was able to contact Charlie Fox, and Charlie Fox actually gave me permission, like yesterday, to post his original low poly Krystal model. So I'll be posting that to the site as well. As soon as I can find it in my archives of files, it's somewhere on my hard drive somewhere. Because I didn't technically have permission to post it, so I couldn't post it. But now I do, so I got to go find it, and then I can post it. Brian and I continue to work with Ayano. We can't reveal anything yet, but there's some upcoming stuff that's going to be exciting, we hope. So, yeah. And I think I actually forgot to mention, but we did post some more recent stuff. Ayano went to she made her final trip for 2016. She went to the first ever Tokyo Comic-Con this year. She sent out the photos, and I posted them the same day. So you can see all of her experiences hanging out with the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and some cybernetic rabbits, the cybernetic rabbit robot characters. That was fun. Lots of cosplayers there. Ayano got a lot of popularity as a cosplayer there, hanging out with like little Darth Vaders and Spider-Man characters and stuff. Yeah. Okay, so as before, so I mentioned we got Krystal Archive posting to the Twitter. We've got Krystal Archive posting to Gab, and eventually I'd like to get it to where we can post to Facebook and Google Plus, and probably a few other places, so that no matter where you get your news, you'll be able to subscribe to the Krystal Archive and see it as things happen. Hopefully automatically, so I don't have to actually manually do it myself. Excuse me. Let's see what's next. Okay, again, long-term plans that I still plan to do. We need to have a Star Fox archive. Most of the time I post Star Fox stuff on the Krystal Archive, but the Krystal Archive is mostly focused on Krystal. So going forward, I'd like to split that off and have just a Star Fox specific thing for Star Fox news and Star Fox posts like the music soundtracks and stuff. The stuff that would otherwise be archive-like stuff that the Krystal Archive does for Krystal, just for Star Fox. So that would be where you would be able to download all of the audio and voice clips for Star Fox Adventures and Assault, whereas on the Krystal Archive, we just have the Krystal clips, just as an example. And again, working on the upgrade to HTTPS and a bunch of stuff regarding the redesign of the site. I've got the plans for it. It's just a matter of finding the time to do it. Hopefully, with this surgery done on my left arm, I've got to do the same surgery on my right arm. Assuming it works, I have to do the surgery on my right arm, and then hopefully my arms will be normal again and I can type a regular amount every day. That will give me the opportunity to work on not just the Krystal Archive, but other projects I've been putting off for months or years because of my limitations with my arms. While I've got you here, I want to show you one more thing. I thought two more things that I thought of just this morning that I thought would be good for a video podcast specifically. So I probably mentioned on a previous podcast that I finally bit the bullet and purchased a 3D printer. And I struggled a lot with finding the right thing to do, how to print well. And I finally had a little breakthrough. I broke through by using a special material. This is a sphere that I printed. And as you can see, the top half looks fine. The bottom half looks terrible. And this was the best I could do for a long time. This is actually better than what you could get with another type of plastic. This is a much easier plastic to work with, PLA. Well, I discovered the secret, and this is my second attempt. This is the next sphere. As you can see, it's almost perfect. Although I can't remove the bottom stuff, this would eventually be printed by printing with a dissolvable filament. So this won't even be there. So I can, in theory, print a perfect sphere, which is like the hardest thing to print. So, as an illustration, there's Krystal. It looks a little weird because I attempted to sand it, but you can see the polygonal faces that I kind of tried to sand down a little bit.
That's amazing.
And you can even see into her mouth, so that worked. I had to really work really hard with some fine tools, and this is the bottom part. So this is where that stuff that held it up was, and as a result, the bottom part is kind of scratchy. And you can see that really easily with these larger ones. So here's one that I printed straight up and down. So I printed it straight up and down. This one's bigger. As you can see, the top looks fine, and I tried polishing the outside and didn't work very well. But the top is fine. The bottom, scratchy, and you can barely see in the mouth. So then I tried it this way. I printed this one like this. I printed it up and down, and so when you look at the face, much clearer. But the back is absolutely horrible.
Oh.
So I can't find it, but I've actually tried another one where I printed it in half. So I printed the top half like this, and then I printed the bottom half like this, and in theory I can glue them together. But that's just an ongoing experiment. And I also have some dissolvable filament, which if it works, I'll be able to print the whole Krystal statue without any special printing, and I'll just be able to dissolve away the support material. Just as a example, this is the largest thing I ever printed. This is a Nightmare Moon from My Little Pony without the eyeballs, and it's also hollow inside, which is something I normally wouldn't do. And I was attempting to see if I could use a 3D printer to make a mask, and you can, but this is not going to work out very well, it turns out. And there's several problems, like here you can see there's actually it snapped a little bit here, and it snapped over here because the walls on this thing are incredibly thin. They're only about 1 or 2 layers thick, and as a result, it's very easy to snap this. But you know, something like this sphere can probably take about 100 pounds, and it won't even indent. It's the shape of it plus whatever's inside of it. It's really sturdy. So I'm going to continue to experiment with 3D printing, and I think one of the things I'd like to try to do first is to try and make a Krystal staff head that has space for lights, just like Ayano's, but also, if you recall from the game, whenever you activate the staff, it actually physically, mechanically opens. And I think I can achieve that with some gears and some clever 3D printing. So I'm going to look into printing a crystal staff head. If I can finish it, I might even have it in time to show y'all early next year. And the other thing I was thinking of is, you know, FJ McCloud has his blaster. So that's something that would be pretty easy to print. Even in multiple pieces, I could print it in multiple pieces and then glue it together and paint it, and it would look exactly like Fox's blaster from the game. And I could add like a laser pointer to it, and it would have a laser sight. So there's all kinds of Star Fox related stuff we can do. So that's 3D printing. That's one thing. There's another thing I wanted to mention, and that is this. This came out many years ago, but in Japan, there were these Star Fox models that came out for Star Fox 64 3D, and they were a set of like stuff you could get with for like a quarter in Japan. You put a quarter in, and it would give you these little models that you can put together. And they look like this in the bag, these little pieces, these R-Wing pieces. And you just put them together, and it becomes an R-Wing. And a little stand to put it on. I also have the Landmaster, and I have the Blue Marine submarine. And these were a gift. These were a gift to me from Ayano back in 2014. She gave me a gift of these, I guess, for helping with the site and posting about her. And so I really appreciate that. I still haven't put them together because I was thinking, you know what, this would be a good thing to do on a video. So one of the things I'd like to do is do a video thing where I point the screen down, you know, and then I manually I can show like, okay, here's my putting together video, putting it together, and here you put the super glue here and so on. So I'm thinking about doing that as a video in the future. And lastly, the very first thing I mentioned here, the reason why we didn't do a podcast more recently is because I have roommates. Well, that is changing. I'm actually moving out into an apartment January next year. So very soon I will be on my own again. I'll be able to record podcasts whenever, possibly do live streaming more frequently. So hopefully 2017 means a lot more Krystal content for through all different means, through posting photos, through social media, through streaming, and all that other stuff. And now that I can finally use my arms again. So so that's what I've got as far as new stuff. Brian, is there anything we've missed or wanted to talk about?
At this point, nothing I can think of.
I mean, I know we covered just a ton of stuff. Let's for our viewers at home, let's see if they have any questions.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to just look quickly back through things. Does anybody know of any HD texture projects for Star Fox Adventures or Assault? I do not know of any, but I have thought about, I've downloaded, when I was working with the emulator, I saw the texture for Krystal, among other things. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting, excuse me, to take the textures, redo them in HD, but do them in like a Legend of Zelda Wind Waker style. So use like a cel-shaded Star Fox Adventures. How would that look? I think I could probably do it for Krystal, and I could have a cel-shaded Krystal walking around, or just the regular Krazoa Palace, and see what that looks like. So maybe that's something to play around with soon. What do you think? Are you any good with art, Brian?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I have been thinking of like doing my own fan art myself, just to see where it could go, but I haven't had time to get around to that yet.
Okay. let's see. People talking about Krystal needing her own game and maybe a card game.
Oh, yeah.
Card game. So that's so another thing I've been thinking about. Oh, Data Fox says he has something like 2,500 shots total. Wow.
Oh.
He definitely did not send all of those photos to me.
Yeah.
So maybe we can work with him and get the get those on the Tumblr, not the Tumblr, the Twitter, no, Flickr, the Flickr site, or the Google. Yeah. Google. I can't keep track of these Web 2.0 things.
It's all right.
Let's see.
Yeah, that's just someone mentioned. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you go first.
All right. I recall someone mentioning something about a cursed game.
Yes.
Just trying to find that.
So I remember it. I got it. I've got it. So Undying Nephilim, along with some other people, worked with that. They tried to work on that, and you know, Undying Nephilim, he knows his games. Like he's made some games, but back then, that was like his first project, and he admitted to me that, you know, they really didn't know what they were doing, and they didn't really. Once they made the initial trailer for it, that was it. Like they didn't really work on it after that, basically. And so it's essentially a failed project as far as that goes. So that game is good. Oh, actually, there is a game with Curse though. Lucas JG 1994, the guy who's been doing the audio renditions on the piano. He contacted me a while ago, and he's working on a story-driven game that's talking about just after Krystal leaves the Star Fox team to become cursed, and it's really basic right now. It's mostly just a click through and read the story, but he is working on it, and he sent me some demos that I can post. So that's another thing I need to post about soon. But I want to reiterate, it's incredibly basic right now. There's not much to it, but he's planning to work on making, you know, branching paths, and how you make decisions determines what story you see. It's a very story-driven game, not like an action game or a shooting game. Someone was asking in the chat about whether or not the Krystal Lovers still works. I think they're talking about the Krystal Lovers Association forum. I think it's definitely still online, or it was. But they're I don't know that anybody's really posting there, and they may be locked down. You may not be allowed to post there. Not sure. Let's see. Nick Coleman, welcome, Nick Coleman. He said he had overslept, but he's happy to see the stream is still running. So there you go. You know, the stream is going to be there, so you can go back and read it. Yep, there's Luca JG. Lucas JG. I gotta finish that. Yep. You got to finish that. So there's another thing. So one of the other projects I wanted to work. Oh, here we go. What are some new features you would like to see in a new Star Fox game, Mr. K? I would like to see mostly a return to R-Wing-based combat in the vein of Star Fox 64, but not in the sense that, you know, it's just a duplicate of Star Fox 64. I want it to be an expansion upon Star Fox 64. So again, continuing the story, you know, not retelling the same story, but a new story, of which I have a few ideas that could work within universe. I also think that there needs to be ways to, I think that they need to expand the gameplay so that you can have different missions that are either allow you to play them wildly differently depending on what choices you make. Think about branching paths, but much more in depth. and also allow you to play as different characters. So you can play as Fox McCloud, or you can play as Krystal, or you can play as Slippy, or whoever, and their ships and the pilots themselves would have wildly different abilities that would greatly influence how you play the game. Whereas in Star Fox Command, what character you play as determines, how frequently your laser shoots and how many bombs you have. It didn't change all that much about how the ship flew or how you attacked your enemy. So just for the sake of example, let's say you're playing as Fox McCloud. Well, Fox McCloud is the leader. So as the leader of the Star Fox team, he has more leadership capabilities. And so at certain parts in the level, he would be able to command his various teammates to do different actions, such as flank him or take care of that enemy, or provide a diversion while I fly in here. Whereas if you were to play as Krystal is a telepath, and she can kind of sense the future a little bit. So what I would do is I would have this way of allowing Krystal to see a few seconds into the future. So you would see enemies fly out from their hiding place a few seconds before, and then a second later, the real ship would occur, and you could already be lining up your sight. And I even thought of a crazy scenario where Prince Tricky would have his own ship, and his ability he wouldn't have any lasers. You would fly it would be an R-wing designed to ram other ships. It would physically ram other ships instead of shooting them down. So just all kinds of different gameplay ideas that could be done within the universe using the characters we already have that would represent a significant change to the gameplay while still being a flight-based shooter arcade game. What do you think about all that? Do you have any ideas for a future Star Fox game, Brian?
I did have one idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I mentioned it to you, I think a few days ago. The only idea I have of a new Star Fox game is one that takes place in a point in time, like after Star Fox Adventures and before Star Fox Assault.
Okay.
I know there's not much time in between those two, but I think like any story that's told about something that which happened in between those points of times, I think that one would be very good. And plus, Krystal would be guaranteed to be in it as well.
She'd be a trainee at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. So mechanically though, it'd be similar to Star Fox Assault or what?
Possibly, yeah.
Okay.
I'm still trying to think of some more ideas.
Okay. So let's see. Someone asks. Let's see. Okay, so earlier you posted about turning down the idea of Star Fox Warriors. If it did happen, what do you think it would have been like? I know I once played a Gundam game before. Now we got the Chicken Walker. Do you think there could have been a game like that with space and ground-based missions? So he's asking, like, could we have had the Warriors game, but instead of being like physically on foot, you'd be on foot in the Walker, I think is what he's asking. That question is from Colby Hockett. I think that could work. Honestly, it's a really tricky question, how you have a Warriors game that's primarily about a series of characters that are known for flying in ships. But if you go the Walker route, that actually could make a lot of sense. I don't think that's what they were trying to do, but that could make a lot of sense as far as hooking up the difference between walking around on the planet and flying around in a spaceship. So there's that. There's also this is an unrelated thing. This is unrelated to the Krystal Archive or to Star Fox for that matter. But one of the the hope is that my arms get repaired and I'm able to work the amount I actually am capable of working, which is something like 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, instead of like 6 hours a day for 5 days a week. If I can work that amount, there's a bunch of projects I want to do outside of the Krystal Archive and Star Fox. I'm already working on a game with my roommate that's gonna, I don't know when it's gonna come out, but it's a long time from now. But I'd like to also start on another game on my own, because I have a friend who thinks it's a good idea, and he's willing to do some art for it if it works out. And that is going to be a game in the style of Paper Mario. It's going to be, you know, the same paper mechanics. It's going to be an RPG. It's going to be paper-based animation and all that other stuff. And that's cool because it doesn't take a lot of graphical know-how to make a Paper Mario type game. It, you know, it's just a polygon, and when you turn around, it does like that. You know, it's not very complicated as far as graphic programming goes. But I was thinking how paper games, a paper RPG game, can be applied to almost anything. You could have a paper Star Fox, you know, and it would have to be ground-based. It couldn't. You would have to have very limited space battles. But I could totally see a Star Fox Adventures 2 being done in a paper style, and it wouldn't be that difficult in terms of making the content. So perhaps when I build this game that's based on Paper Mario-like graphics, what I can do is not lock it down to that particular game and open source the graphics part of it, from which anybody can go in and make their own characters and make their own game based on this paper thing. As long as you can draw a 2D image of Fox or Krystal, you can have them walking around, you know, in this game world. So that's another idea of what might be done as far as a game.
Nice.
So I think we've been doing 2 hours and 15 minutes now. Probably the longest podcast so far. Data Fox says he's willing to send all the rest of the shots that he took, so that's going to be cool. Data Hog does. So yeah, I think we're gonna stop it here. We've answered a few questions. We talked about the entire year of 2016. We talked about what's coming up for next year, and I hope you've all enjoyed it. You have any last words for us, Brian?
No, I think we're all good now.
Okay, I think you guys need to check out Brian's channel. You can find it by searching for Lylat-Mobius Adventurer, and you can see those Star Fox Adventures playthroughs and Star Fox Assault playthroughs. And eventually, well, you've already got the footage from 2014's Furry Fiesta, right?
For 2015, yeah.
2015, right. So 2016 is going to be coming to that channel too, and of course I'll post about it on the site once we get that ready to go. It shouldn't be much longer. I'm going to have some time to review the videos, and hopefully Ayano will approve them as well. So I guess we're done. That's your plug. Visit the Krystal Archive. We got more stuff coming. Not this week probably, because I'm still kind of down from that. But I'm going to be working on some side projects that once I am able to type more clearly, more without pain, we'll have a lot more stuff just like the previous week. So with that, I thank you all for coming. This has been the Krystal Archive Podcast, episode number 38. 38, wow. And I hope you all enjoyed. We'll be making this video available after the stream, so you can watch the whole thing. And I will go back and look at the chat log and try and address any questions that we missed. And thank you all for coming. Thanks, Brian. Good to have you here.
No problem. My pleasure.
All right, guys. That's it. Until next time. Signing off.